What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Fantasy Theory. In today's video, we're going to be discussing Amazon's The Boys once again. Now, the universe in The Boys is just like the world that we live in, except for the addition of a few superheroes sprinkled into the mix. And what I find particularly interesting about the existence of super beings in their universe is the very fact that their world is still so similar to our own. The existence of superheroes doesn't end crime, solve world hunger, or put an end to poverty. It just results in more cash in the pockets of large corporate entities. And that's what's so surreal about the show. They've taken the concept of superheroes and put a dystopic spin on it, normalizing super behavior in a really interesting way. Similar to Michael Jordan getting brand deals for his performance on the basketball court, Supes are incentivized to perform good deeds through monetary compensation at the treat of Vought. We even later found out that Vought were responsible for the initial creation of Supes, which really skews and kind of impurifies our perception of what we once believed to be divine higher beings. So, Supes are created, and they're certainly not otherworldly entities, but how did Vought first stumble upon the creation of Supes? Who was the first Supe? We're introduced to Homelander quite early on. He is the golden boy of Vought, the poster boy, and leader of the Seven. He represents chewing gum, baseball, the American flag, and Uncle Sam all put together. He's the perfect product for Vought to sell to the people. He's also seemingly the most powerful Supe, from what we've seen in the show so far, at least. We're introduced to Homelander's past in Season 1, when he squeezes the truth out of Dr. Vogelbaum and discovers where he came from, subsequently finding out the truth about his abilities and existence. Homelander was one of the only Supes raised without a mother, and Vogelbaum expresses that this method was one of his mistakes. We know that other Supes were raised by families, so given that Homelander wasn't, does this mean that he was the original Supe? Now in this next part, we're going to be diving into some stuff from the comic book. It's worth mentioning that the show and the comic book certainly aren't identical, but if you don't want to run the risk of any sort of spoiler and aren't familiar with the comic books, then you should revisit this video after the premiere of Season 2. The first Supe ever produced was Stormfront. We're briefly introduced to Stormfront in Season 2, at least in the trailer. But what's interesting is that in the TV show, Stormfront is a woman, and in the comic, he's a man. Dr. Vogelbaum, who raised Homelander, was also responsible for the creation of Stormfront, and created him when he worked in a Nazi laboratory during the Second World War. He was the ultimate super soldier for Nazi Germany during World War II, and Vogelbaum actually used Stormfront's DNA as a blueprint, which he could improve upon to later create the ultimate Supe, Homelander. So, there we have it. Homelander was not the original Supe. I'm really interested to see how the show covers Stormfront's backstory, as so far they've very clearly taken some special liberties with the show. It definitely seems like Homelander and Stormfront have some sort of romance going on behind the scenes. The comic and the show certainly aren't identical, so I'm curious to find out if this same history applies. Thank you for watching.
We'll see you in the next episode, fat little hobbitses.